Capitol Report is a production of Senate Media Services.
This week, the state's Commissioner of Economic Development talks about investing for a robust economy, and the Secretary of the Senate reflects on his many years of service to the state. Plus, an historic statue is unveiled at the Capitol. Stay tuned for this week's Capitol Report. Welcome to this week's program. I'm Shannon Loehrke. Last year, Governor Tim Walz established a Council on Economic Expansion to recommend policies to ensure economic growth. The council released a roadmap last summer.
We're at an inflection point in Minnesota's history. So much has happened in the state and in our country over the last couple of years that have reshaped our personal and work lives, and it will define the future of our economy here in Minnesota. Our fellow Minnesotans are feeling the lasting effects of the pandemic and the global movement for racial justice. And we received as a council the charge from Governor Walz and Lieutenant Governor Flanagan to chart a path for a more equitable, inclusive, sustainable, and resilient economy.
What this council found, and it only reinforces what so many of us know, is that we desperately need every Minnesotan and every community in order to thrive economically. Our rural areas need the cities. Our cities need our rural areas. Our majority community needs our communities of color, and our communities of color need our majority community. We are truly in this all together.
We've seen economic successes come out of Minnesota's businesses and workers working hand in hand. Some of the air that we've always breathed in this state is collaborative problem solving. So when we put the council together last summer, understanding that the future is going to look very different, 80% of the jobs in the next 50 years haven't even been invented yet.
This report is highly instructive. It outlines what we need to build an economy that works for all Minnesotans. And that's something that I really appreciate is here throughout, that we need each other, that we're interconnected across the state, across communities, and that is how we will build a Minnesota for the future.
It's not so much a report as a roadmap. It doesn't spend a lot of time kind of navel gazing on how we got here or why we got here. It's really about where we're headed and what we need to do to build a better economy in our state.
Joining me in the studio to talk more about Minnesota's economic growth is the Commissioner of the Department of Employment and Economic Development, Steve Grove. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Shannon.
The roadmap was released last summer prior to the election. Since then, Governor Walz has been elected to 4 more years, and now the DFL control both the House and the Senate. Do you anticipate that the recommendations embedded in this roadmap will find themselves into the governor's proposed budget?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is an extraordinary roadmap given to us by 15 citizens of our state, leaders who came together and said, you know what, we need to be thinking long term. And the ideas in this roadmap are very big picture, and they cross a lot of different agencies. They're not just focused on deed, and they're not even just focused on the governor. A lot of the ideas are focused on looking at what the entire state should be thinking about, business community, government community, community leaders, and what have you. So I think this is a starting point for us to get moving. And I think the main point the report makes that I think is maybe more important, even the individual ideas, is that this is an inflection point for Minnesota, that these decisions we make over the next few months in this legislative session are going to affect decades of economic progress for our state. And given the disparities we see in our economy and the gaps in wealth and employment and opportunity between whites and people of color in particular, but also other targeted groups that are there, if we don't fix those now, we're doing so at our own peril. And so addressing those challenges in particular is not only a moral challenge, but a truly economic one as well.
So you touched on my next question, which is the fact that this roadmap is interwoven in not just your agency, but it touches upon housing, health and human services, education, public safety, transportation, more. So it goes beyond the scope just of deed. With something this all-encompassing, how does it become policy?
Yeah. Well, when you think about what it takes to grow an economy, it touches on a lot of different things. Do you have the right schools so that kids are getting the education that they need? Do you have a great highway system so that commerce can happen between cities, states, and towns? Do you have the talent infrastructure that's there to make sure we have the workers that our businesses need? So economic development, if you do it right, takes a lot of these different levers to do well. The thing that we love about this roadmap, though, is that it doesn't just sort of stay in the clouds and talk about big ideas. It gets very practical. It talks about the fact that we need to have a closing fund to make sure we can attract businesses here, and it gives specific numbers on how much money we should be using to entice businesses to come to our state. It gets very specific on childcare and how we need to make very specific investments to both enhance our ability to get more businesses to get started and to subsidize some of the costs of childcare. If we're really going to grow our economy, we got to have a safe place to put your kids. And so the roadmap is extremely practical in that sense. It has a lot of very specific ideas, sometimes numbers attached to them, that I think are a great starting point for conversations with the legislature.
So there were 5 sort of pillars. I'm calling them pillars. You could call them something else, but 5 points. And the first point was people. We have a hot job market. We don't have enough workers. And of those who remain unemployed, Black and Hispanic people are unemployed at a much higher rate, or a significantly higher rate than white people are. What are some policies potentially that could alleviate this?
Well, the disparities are pretty stunning in Minnesota. The unemployment rate for Blacks right now is more than twice that of whites. And the same is true for several other demographic groups. So there has to be some shifts here if we're going to take advantage of the labor that is in our state. And I will say that we also know that communities of color are participating in the labor market at higher rates than whites. So this is a hard-working segment of the population that businesses need to, and I think in many cases do want to avail themselves of, but we need to make those connections. I think a big area of focus for us is going to be small business growth. We have seen small business starts tick upwards by about 30% month over month since the governor took office. That's a good thing. We want to see those businesses succeed, and we want them to be started by people of color who are going to also hire people of color and build that kind of generational wealth that will shift the dynamic and transform things in our state. We were able to get about $80 million to rebuild some of the tracks that were decimated during the civil unrest after George Floyd's murder. That was a start. We put a lot more money into BIPOC small businesses through various programs thus far. But looking ahead to this budget season, there are a lot of very specific things we can do, not only to help small businesses who can't walk into a bank and pull down a loan like maybe most can, get that initial capital, but also get technical assistance and training so that the businesses they start actually are successful and succeed. And so you got to look at it holistically, invest both in capitalizing some of these smaller businesses so they can hire and grow their portfolio, but also the technical assistance, because starting a business is hard and you need help, and you need people to help you figure out, how to handle this challenge or that. And there's some great providers in our state that do that work. We just need to invest in them.
The second pillar are policies that support communities. Communities was the second word.
Yeah.
But it includes, it talks about voting rights, it talks about public safety and arts and culture and the outdoors. So why is it important to include these aspects to economic development?
Well, the very root of economic development is a community, right? I mean, the state can and needs to play a role in helping communities grow, but communities that can solve their problems, that have the resources, that are attractive places to live, I mean, that's the fundamental of developing an economy, of attracting talent to want to come and live and grow here. We live at a time where talent is very mobile. People are considering where they want to live. Many can work remotely. Broadband access has improved. The pandemic has totally shifted how we think about where people show up to do their work every day. Minnesota has a shot at attracting more talent if we have great arts and culture, safe communities for people to live in, voting rights and civic participation that demonstrates that we care about what we're building together. Those are signals of things that we've had some strengths on in the past, but they aren't inevitable unless we invest in them in the future. And so the council thought really holistically about this. They weren't just thinking about jobs numbers and employment rates, but what are the community factors, the kind of, je ne sais quoi of a community that makes it attractive to come and live in, and I think that's why you see that piece in the report.
The 3 other pieces are businesses, which we've touched on just a little bit. We can only touch just a little bit, and I would encourage people to look at the whole report. Yeah. Innovation and infrastructure, and you just mentioned broadband. Infrastructure also includes housing, and there are issues with housing, affordable housing, lack of affordable housing. What are some possible ways to tackle, the broadband, which we've been talking about forever? Yeah. It seems like, having equal access all across the state, and then the housing concern.
Yeah. Well, infrastructure is huge, and it is the foundation to economic development from an investment standpoint. Broadband, we are painfully close here. We have within our sights the ability to finish the job in Minnesota. We can connect our entire state if we play our cards right. We've got a huge influx of federal dollars coming in. We're trying very carefully to use that money wisely across the state. And then we need to continue to make some investments from the general fund to accelerate this. We'd like to see the entire state connected in the next 4 years. We think we have a shot at it if we're willing to invest heavily this session. It's the perfect use of one-time dollars, which we have at our disposal here with this surplus. And I think it's a very bipartisan issue. Housing as well, the housing market in many ways is broken. On affordable housing in particular, I hear this from businesses every day. We've got a bonding bill in our sights that I think will tackle a lot of this, but it is a major workforce development issue. I'm hearing businesses outside of the metro in particular who are saying they just can't attract the talent because people can't find a place to live. Some companies are even buying up hotels or even individual homes for potential candidates because they need to make sure they have a place to live, otherwise they just can't recruit. So that's a problem government is built to solve. There's other problems where government should stay out of the way, but broadband and housing, I think, are two where there's a market failure there that we need to accelerate and fill that gap so that we have a great state to live in.
In just the few minutes we have remaining, I want to get your thoughts on innovation, because Governor Walz said at the event, 80% of the jobs in the next 50 years haven't even been invented yet. So what does that mean to you? And as the Commissioner of DEED, how do you see innovation playing in?
Well, it's huge, and my background is not in government. I come from Google. I come from the private sector. Google is famously one of the most innovative companies in the world, and I feel blessed to have worked there and to see how great companies get started and build and grow. You know, here in Minnesota, we have a shot at being an innovation capital in our country. We've got extraordinarily innovative Fortune 500 sector and a really strong startup ecosystem growing around it, but you've got to invest, and I think our Launch Minnesota program is an example of where we said, hey, government has a role to play here. It's the entrepreneurs and business leaders who are going to create those jobs, but if government isn't playing that right role to incentivize people to take that risk, to make it possible to start a new company, especially if you come from an environment where you can't just ask your uncle for $25K or your brother for $50, you need that support. We think we can make a big difference there, and Minnesota has every reason to believe we can be an innovation leader in our nation's economy.
Commissioner of DEED, Steve Grove, what a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, Shannon.
Nellie Stone Johnson was a renowned labor and civil rights activist. She is the first African American to be memorialized in the Minnesota State Capitol. An unveiling ceremony of the full-size bronze was held in late November.
Having the statue in the history of Nellie Stone Johnson in here, the impact this will have on generations to come. The idea that this is a state that we need to tell our history, our inclusive and whole history of who we are.
Thank you for this opportunity and for every little girl to know that she has a place and space in this building in whatever role she chooses.
When I was a new legislator in 1997, I started looking around the Capitol while I was waiting for meetings. I soon noticed there were no statues or busts of blacks from Minnesota. Then I noticed there were none of women. Then I noticed there were none of workers or union leaders or educators or farmers. Basically politicians mostly. And I thought to myself, how do the people of Minnesota relate to the people honored in the Capitol? What we really need here is a real role model. And I thought about who we could have busts or statues of. I immediately thought of Nellie as clearly the leading civil rights leader. As I started thinking of others to represent a variety of people, I realized Nellie was sort of an all-in-one. She had done a great amount of work for women in the workplace. She was known all over the state for her fiery oratory and accomplishments for workers and union rights.
If there's one word that I think fits her better than anything else, yes, she was able to protest. She was able to stand up and say, no, this isn't right. But there was always this other commitment. What are you going to do about it? How are you going to get it done? She was a doer.
People who follow the legislature likely know Secretary of the Senate Cal Ludeman as the man who effortlessly and by memory rattles off the names of all 67 senators at the beginning of every Senate floor session. In fact, Secretary Ludeman has devoted his career to public service as a lawmaker and as a commissioner and as the Secretary of the Senate. He joins me now to reflect on his career of service to this state. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Shannon. Appreciate it.
You recently posed a fascinating question to the new class of incoming senators that went something like this. What heavyweight wrestler ran for governor and received 44% of the vote? The obvious answer would be Jesse Ventura, but he only received 37%. In fact, the answer is you in 1986. What did you learn from that experience?
Well, I learned to quit wrestling. I was a heavyweight wrestler at South Dakota State University, so it was a true fact. And from the experience of running for governor, timing is everything. I was 33 at the time when I announced I was running for governor back in 1986, 36 years ago. But it was a great experience, learned a lot, connected with a lot of people all over this state. I'll never forget it. But it was also, of course, a burden for any candidate on family issues and all that kind of stuff. And so you got to be careful about all that so you don't ruin your life as you're trying to improve your life. So that's what I've learned.
We've just come through a midterm election where one would have to live under a rock to not have been bombarded with negative political advertisements. I read in your hometown paper, the Tracy Headlight Herald, that negative ads were produced against your opponent, Rudy Perpich, back in 1986, but that you chose not to use them. Obviously, things have changed, but do we need to once again elevate public discourse?
Well, we do. That comes from the candidates themselves, and they have to understand that they are the ones running for office, not consultants, other people pressuring them to get on the attack. Talk about what you are going to do it more positively, and make it a real choice for people. Obviously, in the end, near the end of a campaign, sometimes it has to be defining the negatives of an opponent. It's not that I was against that, but the tone of it is what's dramatically changed. These are taking half-truths, partial quotes from candidates and talking more about that than what they believe or want to work on. When I ran for state representative, and by my second and third term, I literally put in the newspaper ads what I was going to work on for the next 2 years. I said nothing about my opponent. So that was my job. And you know, opponents oftentimes want to misrepresent that too. But that changes the whole argument. And I've told the new senators, we're talking about issues here, and it's the proposals. You can be vehemently against the proposal, but don't be vehemently opposed to the person presenting it. And so we take the personalities out of the debate, and that's one of the great reasons why I love working for the Minnesota Senate.
And we do hear that frequently in Senate floor sessions, to separate personalities from the issue at hand.
Exactly. And that starts at the campaign level. And hopefully these new senators are transitioning right now as we speak in November and December to understand that being a senator is different than being a candidate for senator.
And you know that personally, that there's a difference between what you do in a campaign versus what you do in elected office.
There has to be.
Yeah. Later, so we're moving through your career here. Later, you served under Governor Tim Pawlenty as Commissioner of the Department of Employee Relations, and then later as Commissioner of the Department of Human Services, which was the largest state agency at that time, and actually still is. People who have worked with you and for you have really appreciated your leadership style, myself included. How did you figure that out? What makes a great leader?
It's a great question. Maybe it's not a secret, I don't think. I think it's about communication. And the biggest part of communication that you better be good at is listening. And if you listen carefully to the people that work for you and with you and associates around you, business partners, by that other agencies, even the governor's office, you better listen to what's motivating them, what they think needs to be done, and then craft projects, craft ideas, and then re-communicate that back to the people that work for you to be able to succeed. And we love success, and I like to reward success everywhere I go. I know team building is a big part of it, but teams don't work if there isn't trust within them, and that trust can only be established by that kind of communication and a belief that that the commissioner or the secretary actually listens to what you're saying. So that's the secret that I bring, I hope, to a management style that works.
Trust and communication. During your tenure as Secretary of the Senate, you've managed 3 major crises, 2 of which were constitutional. The first, when Governor Dayton line item vetoed funding for the legislature in 2017. The second, in 2018, over the dual roles that Michelle Fischbach held as Senate President and as Lieutenant Governor. The third was, of course, the COVID-19 pandemic. Could you write a book on crisis management?
Well, I could, and I might be working on that. We'll see. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. But yeah, you know, the veto was a big deal. It didn't go away during that actually a regular session. So we lived the summer. I had to provide affidavits to the Supreme Court. It was a major fight. It didn't need to happen, but it did. And so you have to live with that crisis. And that's a major crisis. All the funding for all the legislature didn't happen. So we had to find a way to live and limp along and keep the Senate open for business, and we accomplished that. The COVID thing, obviously unexpected, much bigger, more dramatic than anything else. We had to craft ideas and put telework agreements in with every employee of the Minnesota Senate, and then craft an idea for people to be able to vote remotely in the chamber itself and in committees as well. Had to be careful about that so that we maintain the integrity of the voting process in the Senate. So I think we got some national recognition for the way that we did that, and we did it efficiently enough that we didn't damage the efficiency of the Senate. We could still get our work done, but make sure that the sanctity of that vote of each senator was their vote, not a proxy vote or anything like that. That was a major crisis, and I think let's knock on wood here.
Knock on wood, yes.
That this crisis is at least at the tail end of it, and so we get back to full business in person in the Minnesota Senate. The other crisis of the Michelle Fischbach, who I worked for as the secretary, at least in the chamber sessions, was a very interesting thing, so where I was actually doing service for her as the secretary right there in the chamber at the same time she was lieutenant governor. And so it was a very unusual situation.
For sure.
Only time solved that. And,
right.
and finally now she's a U.S. Congresswoman, and it all turned out for the best.
So your career includes great successes in both private business and public service. From a legislative perspective, you referenced this before, you served in the House from 1979 to 1984. And now you are currently the Chief Operating Officer of the Senate, though you will be stepping down. From your perspective, are the demands of the legislature becoming too great that future lawmakers maybe can't have both private sector success and state-level public service success? Or is it still possible to balance both of those
I
things?
think it's still possible. It's difficult. I think it's actually changing the makeup of the legislature itself. It occurred to me at one time in the last couple sessions that as I stood in the chamber, I was the only farmer in the room. And this is a Senate that used to be dominated by farmers in its early days, of course, because of the demographic nature of the state. But that's different because you can't do both. And when I was in the House, I was able to, obviously with the help of a couple brothers that were helping me as well there. So maybe my circumstance was different. To maintain an entire business, unless you've got of a size that you can have employees do some of the work, it's very difficult to maintain that other occupation as well. I think it's actually a great thing if you can do that. It keeps the citizen nature of the legislature alive and brings those experiences right there in the debate.
So before I let you go, I want to know what's next for you.
Well, over the last few years, I was a general manager of a private company in an interim of my service here at the Senate. I'm interested in other opportunities, but mostly I've built a beautiful office in a separate building from my home. And it looks good, and it needs a lot of writing and reading done. I have a separate library, and so I intend to go back to writing, which was a passion of mine. I've got outlines of 3 books already well done, and I'll dust them off and see if we can accomplish something that can be produced. Well,
Secretary of the Senate Cal Ludeman, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
You bet. Thank you, Shannon. Thanks for having me.
A key Senate committee convened this week to hear testimony on the ongoing workforce shortage impacting the long-term care industry.
I live in Roseville. 21 years ago, my adult son, Scott, who's 51, had a massive brain hemorrhage. He is complex care, receiving 24-hour-a-day care on PCA choice. He is dependent on others for all of his cares, and he is nonverbal. He cannot communicate what his needs are. He has a right to compassionate care with dignity and respect in his own home. Caregivers come into our home to take care of Scott. Prior to COVID, my role was to manage all of his cares. My husband and I would only fill in when necessary. Now, due to the shortage of caregivers, my husband and I, both 78, are full-time caregivers. This is not what we planned for retirement. We both have heart issues and back problems. My husband has really bad balance, and I need a knee replacement. I can't get the knee replaced because I don't have enough caregiver coverage for Scott. We moved Scott with a transfer belt. He is 6'2", weighs 176 pounds, and he can't assist, so it takes two people. My husband has fallen while transferring Scott, which means Scott falls also. We've had to call for help to get Scott back up. We've had neighbors help. We've called the Roseville Fire Department. I've had my knee dislocate when transferring him, which resulted in myself falling, him falling, or both of us falling. He's hit his head. He has many bruises. He's had sprains. He's even had a fractured elbow. But we're not alone. Other clients are also being taken care of by elderly parents. And this situation puts all at risk.
Now, we can sit and talk about the low unemployment rate across Minnesota and how all businesses, organizations, and communities are feeling the pain. I sit on the GWDB alongside you, Mr. Chair, and we hear this quite regularly. So why are we different? Why do we deserve something different than anybody else? We can't close up early. We can't open up late. We can't shut the doors for a few days if we don't have the staff to do so. It isn't just an inconvenience for us to not show up to work. Not showing up isn't a choice. Lives depend on us. Vulnerable lives depend on our organizations. Families depend on us to care for their loved ones when they cannot do it themselves, or they too must go to work. Individuals rely on our teams to get them out of bed in the morning, assist with going to the bathroom or taking a shower, making their meals, and even feeding them to them. They depend on us to deliver their critical medications timely and accurately. We must show up. And we continue to show up, despite the subpar rates and reimbursement you all quietly approve of based on the inaction each session. We continue to show up despite the often and unfortunate, disrespectful, combative, and toxic regulatory environment with the agencies. We continue to show up even when you all continue to ignore our calls to action, our pleas for help. We continue to show up until we no longer can. And then the system begins to crumble.
Join us again next week as we delve into more topics affecting Minnesotans. I'm Shannon Loehrke, and on behalf of all of us at Senate Media Services, thanks for watching.